Hello, this is Chad Payne with Lens Software. In this video on RTX Development, we're going to look at the drawing function. So we've looked at the creation and loading of parameters, we've looked at the calculation function, and we now have our array which holds our moving average, and now we're going to draw the moving average. And here's how the presentation looks. We have an option of lines or dots, and I'll show you that. Let me turn the lines on. We've already looked at this. So let me show you how we're drawing this. We are optionally drawing lines, optionally drawing dots with a variable width. So let's just dig into the so in our C++ file we have a draw function which is called when InvestorRT needs us to draw our RTX indicator. So if I look down, this for loop does the meat of the work. It draws the lines and or the dots in a loop, a for loop that starts with the first bar that's visible in the chart and ends with the last bar that's visible in the chart. So if we look at this line right here, get visible bars is a function you can use to call back into InvestorRT to get the visible bars in the chart window at this moment. So if I look at the chart, the get visible bars function is going to get me this bar as the start bar and this bar is the end bar. And we're going to draw our line between. So if we look in our for loop, we're accessing our user data, and if the draw line checkbox or boolean is on, we are drawing our line. If the dot is turned on, we are drawing our dot. Let's go back up top, and again we use the same method we did in our calc function to grab our user data. So we've already discussed that. Use the same method every time in any function. So very consistent, very easy to do. You've got your user data. Now you can access your puser data pointer and dereference any of the parameters as we've done here. So puser data pointer to draw dot is true if our checkbox is checked for drawing the dot. Let's look at some of the other functions. Get draw position. This is a function you can call in InvestorRT with a bar number. So we're using I for our bar number, starting at start, going to end, incrementing it by 1 each time. So we send in the bar number, we send in the price, which is our moving average, and that's output 1. It has our moving average. If I look up top, you'll see that output 1 is grabbing our first array, which is the only array we've used in this RTX indicator. So it takes the bar number and the price within that bar and gives you a point, which is a vertical and horizontal position. So if I look in our RTX for the definition of point, you can see it has a short for the vertical position and a short for the horizontal position and some functions you can call. And it's going to get actually the bottom left. Let me show you what I'm. So I've actually added the MPH indicator just for visual purposes, but this divides up each bar and each price, and what that get draw position function is going to get you is the bottom left of each bar price combination. So I'm going to add half the bar's width to it to get over here. Okay, so again, this is highlighting each bar, each price within each bar, and the get draw position is going to get you right here in the bottom left corner of that price within the bar. So I'm going to add half the bar width to that. And if I look up here, there's a function I called to get the bar width. Okay, this gets the horizontal width of each bar, get pixels per bar. And there's also a pixels per price, which gives me the height of each price within the bar. And that's get pixels per price. So right here, if we are past the first bar, on the first bar we're not going to draw a line. We're going to start by setting the position on the first bar. We do that down here. We set the position to the point, and then as we come through the next bar, if we're past that first bar, we're going to draw a line to our new position, and it'll draw it from this point that we set the position on. Okay, so that's why the if I greater than start is there. So that's the line drawing, and now down here we draw the dot with this code. This is a little confusing why I did it this way, but the reason I did it like this is to make sure the dots were on top of the lines. If I didn't use this method, then this line would draw, then this dot would draw on top of it, then this line would draw here, and you would see that line on top of the dot. I didn't want that, so let me I basically do a delayed drawing of the rectangle. So I don't draw on the first bar. I'll set the rectangle. So you use this call to, again, we've got a rectangle data type, and you'll see that rectangle has a top, left, bottom, and right, and several functions you can call. And one of those functions is set, so you can send in the top, left, bottom, and right in that order, I believe. Let's make sure. Okay, so left, top, right, and bottom in that order. And I'm computing a dot radius, which is equivalent to my dot width that I grabbed from my parameters right here. And I'm subtracting that radius from our center position. Essentially, I'm subtracting that radius for the left, I'm adding that radius for the right side, and I'm subtracting it for the top, and I'm adding it for the bottom. So that gives me my rectangle, and I'm going to draw an oval within that rectangle, which gives me the circle. But I don't draw that circle instantly unless I'm on the very last bar. So if I equals n, I'll go ahead and draw that last dot, but otherwise I'm going to wait and go through to the next round and then draw the previous bar's dot after I've already drawn the line that goes back to that previous bar. So it'll put the dots on top. So that's just want to explain why I use that logic there. Alright, let's talk a little bit about the C pen and C brush data types. The pen, it controls the drawing of lines or borders. In this case, we're going to draw a circle, so it's going to draw the little border around the circle, and it has a color, a width, and a style. The style can be dotted, dashed, or solid. So you can see up here we declared the pen and initialized it to black, 1 pixel, and solid, and then down here I set the color to the color specified in the preferences, and then I just call set CPen to set the pen, and that'll be used for all subsequent drawing until it's changed. The brush, similar, it controls the fill. It has a color and a brush style. And here are the various styles you can use for your brush. You can do none to basically do it hollow. You can do solid, horizontal, line patterns, vertical line patterns. You're usually going to use solid or hollow. Probably the two that you'll most commonly use. I'm typically doing solid. So up here we declared it, initialize it to gray and solid. Down here we set it to the color specified in the preferences, and then we called mybrush.set to set it to that, and it'll stick to that until you call set again. So that was the pen and the brush that was used throughout our for loop for each dot and each line. For the line it used the pen only. For the dot it used both the pen and the line. It used the pen for the border, and it would use that for any rectangle as well, or polygon, and for the fill it used the brush. Now down at the bottom of the preferences you have an option to label the current value and to draw a text label. Now this will not kick in if you're doing all the drawing, you're customizing all the drawing. So there's a trick you have to use in order to honor these two settings of label, do a custom label here next to the scale, and to label the current value in the scale. And I'm not going to dig too deeply into drawing specs, but this trick, I just want to explain what I've done here. I've drawn an invisible line, and by drawing that invisible line I'm still going to draw my labels and my price within the scale. So that's what happens if that's turned on. This drawing of an invisible line, I've drawn our output 1 array. It will label the current value in the scale and put the label next to the scale by drawing an invisible line. I'll get into that more in detail in a separate video on this function. This is a little more complicated. There's a lot of different drawing styles you can send into this function, so it probably requires a video of its own. So those are the basics of the draw function, and we'll get into some more details as we do some more advanced things about drawing, maybe drawing volume at price, and drawing bits of data, specific bits of data at each price within each bar. We'll do that kind of thing. So we'll do individual videos on more advanced aspects of the draw routine and the calc routine. And if you have any questions on the draw routine or any other aspects of RTX development, please email support@lensoft.com. Thanks for watching.